just tuning in, Tom McKay, your host with 3D Politics, David Van, SoonerPolitics.org, and David D'Ambroso at Dave D'Ambroso on Facebook. We've got you want to go to that Iran story now? I call it Iran.
We do have this. Yeah. Okay. He's biting nails. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it.
Now, I've never had a hard copy of an article yet, and I couldn't wait to slam it on the table, and I hope that's really just popping, Come on, Alex. I've got it here. It's evidence, right? This occurred. It's on paper. Well, I mean, essentially just setting it up, we know about this airliner that was shot down in Tehran. So at first there was a mystery as to how did this plane come down. Well, now we know officially it was the Iranian government. And you have a theory on that, David Van. What do you think happened?
Well, this morning they admitted, oops, it was a mistake.
They admitted what we all suspected.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. And, Trump is going to say what he suspects, but if he's got inside information, he's certainly not going to say, we know, because he'd rather them not know that you know.
This is one of these accidents like, if you accidentally wander into a supermarket and shoot 7 people. The thing is, really, even with binoculars, you can tell the difference between a 737 and a military
I don't think they're looking. I think they're looking at a radar.
The radar is even more specific.
Wait a minute, no.
IFF indicators, all kinds of indicators. Okay. Even if you're firing a shoulder-fired missile.
Time for a little humble pie here.
They're indicators.
In 1987, American forces in the Persian Gulf did shoot down an Iranian passenger plane, killing everybody on board. And what did we say? It took us a long time, but we said oops. Okay? So we've done what they've done. It's an oops. It's a screw-up. We paid reparations. What I want to know is, are the Iranians going to pay reparations to Ukraine and to Canada?
Yeah, I guess from the standpoint that they're quite a bit behind us technologically, I guess you could make some kind of understanding to say that I suppose mistakes could happen.
These were Russian systems they were using.
From what I understand, cursory
you're slamming Russian electronics all of a sudden?
I'm just speaking the facts, folks.
Well, so I think like a season.
There's one thing when a plane is maybe 30,000 feet away from you. Way up there.
Yeah.
But when one of them's taken off from your civilian airport, and it just took off, it's one of those things.
They were panicked from all the other incoming.
No, and Tom, thank you. That's a good distinction, because our ships, both merchant marines and our military aircraft, were under continual sporadic assault coming from Iran as we were floating through the Persian Gulf. Okay? So when we see this thing on radar coming out of there, flying directly at us, we don't know what it is at that point. We did shoot down a civilian airliner, but at least we had an excuse.
Right.
Unfortunately, with the Iran thing, we were not firing any incoming missiles.
Oh, in fact, Trump had called for a
no-fly
zone. He says, you know what? Any plane goes up in the air is in danger right now.
Right.
So Trump was showing more consideration for the people than the Iranian government.
Well, that's not a shocker, but still, I mean, it's quite an amazing mess up to think that a civilian aircraft taking off. I mean, it just was about 2 minutes after it took off. So
this one, real quick.
So you look at the vector, like, hey, this is at our airport. This is, you get all this information on the radars. How fast is the object traveling? Yeah. How big is it? What is its? What's the IFF reading? All these things. You have to make so many mistakes to shoot off a plane that just took off that it's kind of hard to believe that it's a mistake. But I suppose anything's possible, and really, we'll never know what happened.
I can't even get no pickles on a number 12 at the McDonald's. I mean, I think it'd be easy for them to shoot an airplane down when they're panicked and incompetent.
Well, and let me tell you, my brother worked for. He was in the Air Force, babysitting missile silos in North Dakota during the Cold War. There's nothing more boring. I would think sitting at a radar and just staring for hours, and all of a sudden, here he comes!
Right.
Here it comes,
Chance
it's
to
moving
be
slowly
G.I.
away from
Joe.
our civilian airport. There, we better get it. It's going at 1/3 the speed of a tactical bomber away from us.
But let me tell you, the guys who babysit missile silos in North Dakota, and they're still there. Cold War's over, but we're still there. The Air Force trains them to be paranoid as all get out.
Sure.
I mean, you're out rabbit hunting and you come anywhere close and it's guns drawn because they have been trained to assume that you are a Russian infiltrator.
Yeah, haven't you ever been hovering over a link, over the heat-seeking finger pad? And, your finger just kind of drops down. You accidentally hit the nuclear link, and you're like, "Oh,
Whoa,
I think I just shot down an airline."
It's kind of like that. It's like, ooh, I accidentally turned both keys at the same time.
Yeah,
like, how did I do that?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
press on the brake instead of the.
it is a great tragedy. 176 people dead, and these things happen. There was that Malaysian, remember, in 2014, that Flight 370 disappeared over the Indian Ocean. We
Wasn't
still
it
don't know about
371?
Maybe.
You guys can argue math.
I just razzing him. How do you remember these numbers?
the point was that plane was a Malaysian airliner,
Yeah.
but then not too much longer after that, right? Another Malaysian airliner was flying over Ukraine,
Yeah,
and it got shot down.
sure did.
And that it's just such a huge tragedy, but it's kind of more understandable when it's outside of visible range.
Yep.
And it's over a war zone. And I was thinking at the time, not knowing much about it, what in the world? Why would a civilian airliner, why would your path even be over an active war zone?
Yeah.
So, just a great tragedy, and goodness.
Now, this was, let's look at this in the broader concept of all these events that happened just within a few days. We killed the number 2 military guy in Iran, right? And then they said, "Oh, we are coming after you. We're coming after you." And Iran secretly goes and tells Finland, knowing Finland's going to tell us where the missiles are going to hit. We get out of there. Iran wanted to look good to their people for, domestic consumption.
Save face, yeah.
But yet they really didn't want a war with us. And it gave Trump a chance to really show that he didn't really want a war either. Yeah.
And promised every day on fake news that he's trying to start World War III.
Right. And they said the same thing
leaving
about
Syria.
Reagan. They called Reagan a warmonger too. But he comes out looking good. The only thing, this has become a surrogate argument for something that a lot of us freedom, liberty conservatives have been asking for a long time, that if we're going to commit troops, let's have a real declaration of war that needs to come from Congress, not vested in one person. Because as commander-in-chief of the military, that aspect of the president's power is dictatorial.
Yeah,
And the only
correct
thing
me if I'm wrong,
holding it
he's
check-
commander-in-chief, and he's got about 6 weeks, correct? Before he has to declare something.
60 days.
Okay.
So, yeah, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, yeah,
Okay.
about 60 days.
So he can do kind of whatever he wants
He can
for
torch
2
the
months.
whole earth as long as he gets it done in 60
Come back
days.
in 60 days.
And so we have a bill. This is an Oklahoma component. I want to finish up on this story. Is Senator Nathan Dahm just filed a bill. It has to do with the Oklahoma National Guard, which answers to our governor. However, the Constitution says that the federal government can call them up under President's order. Well, Nathan Dahm has filed a bill that's a bit of a nullification bill. He said
Shocker.
they can't be deployed to combat zones overseas without a congressional declaration of war or congressional authorization.
So even for those 2-month operations, he's saying you have to have the declaration.
If it's in a combat zone, if
Okay.
it's, deliberately that these people are going into a theater of war.
That is interesting how that would play out with the Supremacy Clause versus the 10th Amendment, because constitutionally the president does have that authority under the War Powers Act within that 60 days.
If it's war. But again, it takes more than 60 days to get our National Guard mobilized and deployed.
Yeah.
So you still have
I guess that would depend on logistics, but would that be the case perhaps in the future? Maybe not.
Yeah, the military moves pretty slow. I mean, we have our rapid deployment forces, but they're always federal forces. If you're going to start calling up the guards and reserves,
Traditionally, that's taken
that's
a long
years
time.
into a battle.
I thought because Soleimani was in Iraq that was part of what made him fair game. I thought there was
Yes.
there was an issue of
Yeah.
of legitimate logistics that they followed whatever law there is.
That's a good point. And pretty
He
much
wasn't supposed to be
When you're
where
a
he was.
geopolitical enemy in a combat zone that's not your country, you are fair game, period.
and
Driving a Chevy too.
and we
That was a
have
mistake.
over 10 years of evidence that the IEDs were mostly coming from Iran.
Iran wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
They said so.
Yeah, they said so. Don't believe it, just ask them. They'll tell you.
Yeah, we are living, to finalize this bit on the Iran, we are living in what I call the Trumpsonian era. It is a new era. I made that up from a friend I
That's
stole
good.
it from.
That's
I
good.
made that up from a friend I stole it from.
Yes.
And the Trumpsonian era, I give Don credit for that. And the reason is, since 1979, 40 years, I've never heard Iran take ownership of anything they've
That's
ever
true.
done. I've never heard them admit anything.
Well, they are more holy than us, so they have a special dispensation to lie.
Regardless
Yeah.
of
God
anything,
told them they could.
look at them suddenly admit that they were wrong. It's a huge,
That is an amazing observation, Tom.
it's a huge difference
Yeah.
than it used to be.
Yeah. Okay.